Hi, Dean. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Pleasure.
Can you explain a little bit about when you became a fan? So when did your love of West Bromwich start?
I had no say in it really, Tony. I was actually there's the cover of my first book. It explains everything. Born to be a baggy. Um, Born in 1960. At the time, my dad was chairman of the supporters club. My mum was also fanatical. So really, I had no say in it. I was taken up the Hawthorns from mid 60s by whoever would take me. My dad, my brother, my uncle, next door neighbour, anybody, and then. Yeah, that was a way of life from then on. I had a season ticket with my mom from 1968. I've still got a season ticket to this day.
So your dad introduced you to West Bromwich Albion. So he was a fan, I take it.
Yeah, my parents really, as I say, that's my dad there on the way to the cup final in 1954. That's my mom behind him. So actually, my mom, in truth, was probably more fanatical than my dad. My dad had a bit of a disagreement with the club sometime in the 60s. I don't know the ins and outs, but he actually stopped going. Um, but my mum carried on right up until she was too ill, really to
Yeah.
go.
So I just want to talk a little bit about foreign ownership of clubs. And I know there's been a lot going on in terms of West Brom under Ley and what your thoughts are on what is it a good thing to have clubs owned by foreign investors? Where do you stand on this?
Honest answer, no. I'd prefer them to be British, but it's just the way it is now. Fortunately, a lot's happened since I last spoke to you. I don't know if you're aware of this, but
I had all these
we do have,
questions.
yeah,
What's changed?
we do have new owners, albeit it's not signed and sealed yet, but it's hopefully any second now, they reckon this week. It's all agreed. He's been to the one game, he's there Friday night for the Coventry game, the new owner. Again, he's an Indian heritage, American based businessman, Shilen Patel. His pedigree sounds very good. So who knows? It can't be any worse, is what we're all saying.
Can you, for people who don't know the history about this, the recent management of West Bromwich Albion, can you explain about Ley and where it started and how it kind of turned sour?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to remember what year it was now.
I've
Um,
I've got a 2016, so it was owned by
that
James
sounds about right.
Pierce.
Yeah, Jeremy Peace, who he's a bit of a Marmite character. People either like him or they don't. But he was a fantastic businessman. He was the chairman and ultimately the major shareholder. And he sold the majority shareholding to a Chinese consortium led by Guochuan Li for a ridiculous figure, probably around 220 million. Probably we weren't worth half of that in truth. So we got stitched up a little bit there, I think. But the Chinese at the time were investing a lot of money in football, and they saw Albion as an established Premier League club. We were there for 8 years, and they just wanted a Premier League club, so willing to pay whatever it took. Then it all turned a bit sour.
So Jeremy Pierce was a fan of the club.
Peace. Yeah,
Pierce, sorry, he
yeah,
was like so he knew about the club.
yeah.
Is the concern a lot of these foreign investors don't know about the club and that they can get relegated and that the income drops and is that a part of the problem?
That's exactly what happened. And the economy crashed in China as well, I think. But we did get relegated a couple of seasons into Lai's regime. And obviously, income stops then. We have 2 years of parachute money that ran out. All he did in the end was take money out of the club, which we hadn't got, incidentally. We were surviving on a shoestring as it was. And he was propping up his other businesses by taking 5 million out here and there, which Albion hadn't got that sort of money. So yeah, I didn't see the bigger picture, that's for sure. Whereas the new owner, let's face it, we're in the championship now, so he knows that
Yeah.
hopefully we'd never go the other way, although we have been once before. But hopefully, blue skies ahead.
Yeah. Do you hope though it isn't a case of history repeating itself because you've got this again overseas investor coming in making these huge promises. He's obviously very
Of course.
wealthy, and it's In terms of when you are in this dilemma, how much communication do you get from the club? Like, do they keep the supporters involved, or do you feel excluded from what's going on in terms
Um,
of
well, I'm a shareholder, so I do hear probably more than some of the others do. Although um, Guochuan Li, his silence was deafening. You know, we never heard anything from him. I mean, he went to one game in 4 years. He's the
yeah.
owner of the club. You know, it says it all, really, doesn't it? But the
Yeah.
new owner's been to one already, and he's not even signed the dotted line yet.
Yeah.
So, communication. To be honest, the chief exec who was put in charge, Mark Miles, and Ian Skidmore, his sidekick, they're pretty good in communication. They've sort of kept everybody up to date with what's happening as much as they can say. Obviously, up to the appointment, it's all been non-disclosure stuff. So there's been a lot of guesswork and a lot of speculation, but it's out there now, and hopefully it'll all be sorted this week.
In terms of fan-owned clubs, do you think that's feasible? I was doing some research, and it doesn't seem that a lot of any top-tier club is owned by the fans. They all seem to be owned by businessmen or consortiums. I'm
That's
just
not.
I'm just thinking, is that a kind of way forward? Do you ever think about whether that would be better for the fortunes of the club if it was owned by the fans?
I think it's a great idea, but I think it only works in the lower leagues. To be honest, I know Portsmouth and Exeter. There's just two off the top of my head. Uh, but I think there's an opportunity there for some sort of a supporters trust. How that'll work, I'm not sure, but it'd be a nice thought. But when you're talking about 100 million, that's a lot of money to raise from a lot of fans.
Yeah.
So, and then how's the hierarchy stacked? You know, how's it all work? I'm not sure, to be honest, Tony. I think that's more for the lower division clubs.
Yeah. Do you think that these businessmen come in and it seems that they actually don't invest any of their own wealth, although that's how they sell it as they're very wealthy, but actually they secure loans against the club? Is that how it works?
Well, that's not always how it works, but that's certainly how it's worked at the Albion for the last few years. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. He's taken money out of the club. I mean, some of the transfer fees have come in, and we have no idea where it went. You know, a £16 million for Matthias Pereira. Nobody knows where that went. China, we think. Um, and then on top of all that, of course, we were skint. He's taken probably 30 million out in loans,
This
which the new
lay.
owner has now been lumbered with.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's taken money out to pop up with his other businesses, hasn't paid it back, and then taken more loans out. So the sale, that's why it's probably dragging on. It's not that straightforward. There's a lot of things involved.
There's I don't know how true it is in the papers that Jeremy Peace took a loan out against the club as well before he left. It just seems to be what the owners do. It's
Yeah, yeah. It was mad. There's lots of different groups like West Bromwich Albion Group Limited. There's West Bromwich Albion Holdings.
well,
So they move it all around, and basically what Jeremy Peace did, he took money out of one pot to put in another one, which allowed him to buy to buy the majority of shares. I mean, it all stinks, to be honest. And then, of course, the new owner comes in, he has all that as well, and
yeah.
then he's made things 10 times worse. So there's a lot of mess to sort out, and
Yeah.
good luck to the new owner.
I mean, apparently he's purchased. This is Shilan Patel, the
Yeah,
Florida-based business owner. He's bought the club for 60 million. So if Lay purchased it for like 150, 200 million, he's made a huge loss in terms of
yeah,
that return
hell
on
of a loss,
investment.
hell of a loss. Yeah, I mean, in fairness, they reckon it's 60 million plus the debts, which
Yeah.
is probably another 50 million. But he's going to carry on with the loans. Apparently, he's not going to pay them off. He's going to see them through. Um,
But
I can't remember what the question was. Sorry,
it's
Tony.
okay. It's okay. It's just that there's huge sums of money involved, isn't there?
Yeah,
And it's never disclosed to the public, so you never quite know what's going on. And for people who aren't maybe supporters of the clubs, how can a club raise finance? I mean, can it raise ticket prices? Can it sell players?
players is the major money spinner. I mean, they reckon the income through the gate doesn't even scratch the surface of what it actually costs to run the club. They rely on television income.
Really?
Unfortunately, that's also a nightmare for supporters because they keep moving the games. People like me who go to all the away games as well, you can't make any plans at all. You know, you think, oh, we'll have a great weekend in, I don't know, where we just come back from. We've been in Hull this weekend, just got back yesterday, Saturday, sorry. So they moved the kick-off till 12:30. So it meant we couldn't, from where I live in Leamington, I couldn't physically get there in time for the kick-off on the train. So we had to go up on the Friday, stay overnight to the Friday, travel after the game. And that's happening all the time. I don't think we play a 3 o'clock home game now until April,
You
which
know,
is crazy.
so really everything's being dictated to by the TV schedule
Correct.
because
Yeah.
that's
And we
where the
have
money.
no say in it at all. And the clubs don't have any say in it. They sign up to it. And for some reason, I like to show the Albion. We seem to be on television every week.
I suppose the other option is selling their assets, so like selling key players, but I imagine that then just makes the situation worse. If you're, fighting for promotion, if you sell your best assets, then that hinders your ability to get into the Premiership where you do get more income, and it's kind of a catch-22.
He's very much so, yeah. Clubs like us, yeah, if we get what we sold Dara O'Shea at the beginning of the season for, it was £6 million. He's probably worth more than that, but we were just desperate for the money. They would have taken anything for any of the players, I think, at the start of the season. Fortunately, the January transfer window, we brought in a couple of decent loan signings and we didn't actually have to sell anybody. I think then the new owners were involved. We don't know that for sure, but it seemed, we thought we'd lose players and all of a sudden we didn't. So they must have been talking at that stage and making sure the money was there to keep the club going for the rest of the season in a promotion push.
Do you think going forward there needs to be more safeguards in place to stop a situation like Lay from occurring? Because it does seem to be it's in this stalemate situation where the fans can't do a lot. The businessman probably wants a return on his investment, so maybe he's looking for the right time to exit, but at the same time the club is suffering.
Yeah, there's new legislation in place now. What happened with Guochuan Li couldn't happen again to any football club. There's a lot more due diligence now, and the EFL, English Football League, are involved as well now with potential new owners. That's why Shilling Patel's had to go through all these tick lists, if you like, to make sure he's got the money and the club can be run on a sort of sound grounds. So hopefully that won't happen in the future, but it's too late for a lot of clubs now, and it's only a matter of time before a major club goes bump out of business, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's happened down the lower divisions, but I think it's only a matter of time before a big club goes.
They aren't great business investments, are they, football clubs?
Not
Like,
at all. No.
from listening to people, mainly businessmen who've invested their own personal money, it's not something you do for a return on investment. It's something you do for the love of the club.
Definitely. Although there's no connection with the new owners, as there wasn't with the Chinese, with West Bromwich Albion. But no, I mean, I certainly, even if I was a multi-millionaire, which I'm not, I certainly wouldn't buy the Albion, much as I love them to bits. But you're on hiding to nothing, really. It's very hard. And if you get to the Premier League, you've then got to invest a lot of money just to even stay up there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just come straight back down, as we will at the moment. In the summer, should we just about go up for the playoffs, which is possible, without spending, and I'm talking, maybe £100 million. This is the sort of money you're talking about to bring some players in to stay in the Premier League. You're just going to come back down again. But you can do that. That is a business model.
Yeah.
You can, because you get 2 years parachute money then. So that gives you a chance to stabilise and then go again. We did it quite successfully for a few years.
So I suppose it's like in 2 years, you hope you can go back into the Premiership, because after that parachute money goes, it gets a lot harder. And
that's what's happened to us.
Yeah.
We did that quite successfully for a few years, but now we're in the third year now and there's no money left since the Premier League. So, hence the problems we're in.
Do you, when Lay took over, did you I mean, I'm not a football fan, but even I could tell a Chinese business owner taking over a West Midlands club or a UK club, it doesn't quite make sense. You know, they're not really known for their footballing prowess or as a footballing nation. It does kind of you do ask why he got involved, but do you think he just didn't understand what he was getting into?
Well, definitely, and English football, particularly the Premier League, was a big thing in China at the time.
Yeah,
So billionaire businessmen, oh, you've got to get a English football club Premier League. It was the new tie to have, you know. So and we didn't know any different when Jeremy Peace sold. We thought, well, if somebody's got 220 million, he's got to have a few bob to put into the club. So in the first game, he gave everybody attending a scarf, and you got a free pie, and we thought, oh well, you know, let's give this bloke a chance. He's obviously got some dosh. Well, nah, that was it. We never really.
he
Like the
never.
early years in the Premier League, we did splash out. We saw, you know, we spent 15 million here, 18 million there, wasted a lot of money actually. But we had the income coming in through the Premier League then. As soon as we went down the trapdoor, that all stopped.
Do we know for a fact the club was sold? Do we know how much it was sold for live for, or are we only speculating? Has it ever been disclosed?
It's definitely over 200 million.
Yeah,
And I've heard 220 million. Whatever
yeah,
it was over
yeah.
overpriced. Like
And
Jeremy Peace couldn't believe it when he came out that meeting. He must have had his fingers crossed behind his back and straight to the pub, I would imagine. He's now living in Bahamas or Bermuda or somewhere. Seriously, he's
Do you know if he still goes to the Baggies at all? Is it?
he's
He's
never
never.
been seen, never been seen, which is a shame really, because he was supposed to be a lifelong fan.
Yeah,
And I remember going to a pre-season game in Denmark once years ago. Was he chairman at the time? I think he was chairman, but he was stood on the grass bank behind the goal with the fans watching the game, and I thought, well, kudos, you know, fair play.
yeah,
He's a proper fan. He wasn't getting all the hospitality treatment,
yeah.
but then, yeah, obviously he stitched the Chinese up for over 200 million, and away he went, sailed into the
Yeah,
sunset.
yeah. I mean, going back to what you said about foreign investors seeing it as a kind of status symbol owning a club, do you think that is a part of the trend where people buy these clubs up as like you say, status, kind of like a
Yeah,
vanity thing?
definitely. Well, it's happening with the Saudis now, isn't it? You know, and they're securing a lot of Premier League players, if you like, for ridiculous salaries. And you hardly get anybody going to watch the games over there. So I think they're probably flogging a dead horse, to be honest, trying to get their league up to somewhere near the Premier League. But yeah, they see it. They got rich man's tie, really. Yeah, let's have a Premier League club, and Man City's a classic example of that with the Arab owners, isn't it?
And do you think because in the American model, they have closed seasons where you don't get relegated. So in the major leagues like baseball, American football, they don't have the same system. So do you think some of these investors have completely the wrong idea of how the leagues work in England? How much money you
Yeah,
can lose if you are
well, I don't know
relegated?
whether I don't know whether they don't know you can't get relegated, but I hope we never use the American model. I'd hate that. It just seems like a nonsense to me.
Yeah.
Although what I think will happen eventually, there will be a European Super League. I think that's inevitable. I think the top, say, 5 or 6 clubs, you know, your Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, they'll go and be playing Barcelona and Bayern Munich every week. I'm not bothered, to be honest, as long as they're not allowed to play in the FA Cup or something. If they go, gives other clubs a chance. Then I think that will happen. I mean, that's where the money is.
Yeah. So in terms of the future for West Brom, are you kind of optimistic or are you going to reserve judgment?
Well, I'd say I'm optimistic. I mean, the new ownership was a long time coming, as you probably know. All last season was demonstration after demonstration and protest by a group called Action for Albion, who have done a fantastic job. You know, they even got us mentioned in Parliament, meetings at 10 Downing Street, really raised the issue. And so we've had all last season that went on. And then this season, we heard the club was actually up for sale at long last. See, last season it wasn't up for sale. So we're protesting to say, come on, get out, let somebody else have the club, buy the club. So this season it was officially put up for sale. And that's been the story of this season, really. It's who's going to buy it, lots of speculation, who's coming in, who's looking at it. And then it's only, as I say, it's last week. This has all happened in the last week, that his new owner, and he was at the home game last Friday. And he's probably there going for all the books now, I would imagine. Nothing's 100% official yet, but it looks pretty much signed and sealed, I think.
Dean, thank you ever so much. It's been great talking to you.
You too, Tony.
Take
If you ever
care.
want to go to it, if you ever want to go to an Albion game, just give me a shout. I'll sort you a ticket.
No problem. Thank you very much. Take care.
All
Bye-bye.
right, cheers, Tony. Bye, mate.
Bye.
Bye.